More late drama in the Premier League, more set pieces from Arsenal. They've got the perfect reaction to Liverpool dropping points this weekend in the Premier League. Gabriel coming up with the winner with just minutes to go. And it was an epic Premier League battle on Sunday afternoon at St James's Park. Mikel Arteta finally released the handbrake. We saw a very, very good Arsenal performance, I thought, overall yesterday at St James's Park. To a man, they were brilliant. They were strong. Eze in the 10 was exceptional yesterday afternoon. We're going to break it all down. We're going to talk right the way through it, all the key moments. Could there have been red cards and penalties as well? Would love to know your thoughts down in the comments. Whilst you're down there, make sure you drop a like on this video and make sure you are subscribing to the Footy Social Club. Right, let's get into it. Team news first. Nick Pope in goal for Newcastle. Livramento, Chow, Botman and Byrne at the back. Nice and solid from Newcastle. Classic three in midfield. Bruno, Tonali and Joel Linton. Up top, Jacob Murphy in for Alanga. Voltemada through the middle. And Anthony Gordon back for suspension on the left. I thought that front three had a really good performance, in all honesty, from a Newcastle perspective. Arteta tweaked it slightly, and I was pleased to see this. Raya in goal, Jurriën Timber, who is just an exceptional Premier League right back. Mascara in for Saliba. Saliba still feeling the effects of the ankle injury, so Mascara came in. Gabriel, Calafiori, Zubamendi and Rice as a holding two in midfield. Now, I prefer this far more than a 4-3-3. And then Saka on the right, obviously Madueke out now for the next 6 to 8 weeks. Eze in the 10. Arsenal fans, tell me how much you loved Eze's performance yesterday in an Arsenal shirt. Trossard again trusted down the left, and Victor Gyökeres up front for Arsenal. And look, it started frantic from an Arsenal perspective in the first 4 minutes. Eze gets a shot in, and Nick Pope does brilliant down low to push it wide. And that set the benchmark for how Arsenal played for large portions at the game at St James's Park. Remember, it's a really, really difficult place to play your football. Arsenal haven't won there in 4 games. And the Newcastle fans, along with Newcastle players and Eddie Howe, normally have the better of this Arsenal side. They normally get bullied. Fans get on their back, but Arsenal took it to them. And I was somewhat surprised. I wondered whether Mikel Merino would sit in the midfield and Arsenal play 4-3-3, maybe Eze again on the bench. But as I mentioned at the start of the show, Arteta released the handbrake. He gave Arsenal a chance to win the game. And let's be honest, they had to react to the fact that Liverpool dropped points this weekend. They had to react to the fact that Man City picked up points. Spurs dropped points as well. Chelsea as well, dropping points. Teams around Arsenal, teams that are going to have a say in not just the race for the Champions League, but also the Premier League, drop points. And I, in my prediction show, didn't think I would see this type of performance for Arsenal. I actually expected Newcastle to win this game because of how Arsenal generally set up in the bigger games. Arteta sets up not to lose, and I just didn't think that he would release the handbrake and let the quality that is in this Arsenal team play. 13 minutes, the first big call of the game. Gyökeres through, goes around Pope. Gyökeres and Pope clash. And Jared Gillett, the official on the day, points to the spot. Now, it's pulled back by VAR, and Gillett goes over and decides that it's not a penalty. And it's given as a not a penalty because it is a judge that Pope plays the ball. Now, let me tell you, someone who played in goal, not at Premier League level or anything like that, Pope doesn't make any attempt to play the ball. And I'll take your minds back to Brighton last season. William Saliba has exactly the same thing happen to him, where his foot gets the ball, but he takes the man. And we see it out on the pitch. There's tackles that happen. Players win balls, but they take the player out and they get free kicks given against them. So if it happens outside the box, then Nick Pope should have been given away a penalty, at the very least been booked. But if he's denied a goal scoring opportunity, probably should have found himself sent off at St James's Park. Controversial, I know Newcastle fans won't like that, but he doesn't play the ball. He plants his foot, but he plants his foot trying to react to Victor Gyökeres going around him and setting himself, not trying to play the ball. Anyway, it wasn't given. And the game remains 1-0. 25 minutes on the clock. Trossard inches away from putting Arsenal 1-0 up. He hits a thunderous left-footed shot off the inside of the post, beats Pope, all end up. Declan Rice was brilliant yesterday again in an Arsenal shirt. It was his through ball that released Trossard. And as I said, inches away from putting Arsenal up. 28 minutes, more Arsenal possession, more Arsenal dominance. Looking at the stats on screen, 20 shots Arsenal had away from home yesterday. 7 on target, 12 corners. And Eze with a half volley, brilliantly denied again by Nick Pope. He had an excellent game other than the goals that came late, where I think he potentially could have done better. Should he have been on the field? That's for you guys to tell me in the comments. But he denied Eze again, brilliant, who looks very much at home in the number 10 position for Arsenal. 31 minutes on the clock. Again, more Arsenal dominance. Down the right-hand side this time, Bukayo Saka beats Dan Burn for speed and pace. He was always going to. Hits a right-footed shot that Nick Pope gets down well to save and push it away. And at this point there, I'm thinking, look, the goal's coming. Arsenal are going to score very, very soon. I'd be surprised if it's 0-0 at half time. Newcastle had the 1-half chance prior to this point. Malik Chow's header straight at David Raya on about 10 minutes. They'd really offered very, very little in the game. And if I'm Mikel Arteta and as an Arsenal fan, I'm absolutely delighted with what Arsenal are doing. Mentally, they look strong. The handbrake's off. They're having a go. They're taking the game to Newcastle. They're keeping the Newcastle fans quiet as well. And then 33 minutes, Tonali, lovely little 1-2 with Anthony Gordon from the corner. Tonali whips a ball in. Baltimore up higher than Gabriel. And what does he do when he's 6'6", 6'7"? Plants a header into the bottom corner. David Raya, absolutely no chance. Never a free kick either. Gabriel goes down like a sack of shit. And I thought Gabriel was excellent other than that one moment. Goes down far too easy as a centre-half. He doesn't need to do it. Yes, last season we had the issue where he had the two hands on his back from Joel Linton. But yesterday he had to be stronger. Arsenal switched off for me. They gave Baltimore far too much space. Should have been maybe Saliba up against Baltimore yesterday. Brilliant header again for the German. That's now 2 goals for him, and 2 headers as well. Newcastle have really got to look to use that tactic this season, especially from set pieces. And look, Gabriel and Baltimore get into some aftermath as well. Gabriel ends up pushing him in the face or leading with a sort of a fist into an elbow. And Gabriel is really very, very lucky. And he's in recent seasons got that out of his game, that moment of red mist that comes over. He gets involved in things that he shouldn't. He clearly felt he should have had a free kick. I can tell you as an Arsenal fan, he shouldn't. And with the cameras catching him pushing his hands into Baltimore's face, then he is very, very lucky that he probably himself doesn't get sent off at St James's Park on Sunday. Arsenal go into the break and it's 1-0 to Newcastle. And, at this point here, I'm thinking, wow, but they've remained calm. They've got to focus on what they're doing. And I'm sure Arteta would have said, keep going because you're playing well. Mosquera was replaced at half time. It was his error that led to the Newcastle goal. It shanked a clearance that led to the corner. Which Baltimore scored. But Mosquera was replaced at halftime by Saliba. My question mark is around that. Is Saliba is one of the best. He signed a new contract. If he's fit enough for the bench and he's your best centre-half, then he probably should play at St James's Park. And that's no criticism of Mosquera, but I felt that Saliba probably should have started yesterday. And Arsenal looked more solid with him at the back. Very early into the second half, literally the 45th minute, Newcastle started so brightly. Murphy down the right whips in a delightful ball. Voltemada, question marks whether Murphy was offside, but Voltemada shanks his effort, which hits the top of the bar. And you're thinking, if Newcastle put that away and it's not offside, then Arsenal's afternoon is going to be one hell of an uphill battle. That got the Newcastle crowd up. 56 minutes. Joel Linton hits a low-footed drive just wide of David Raya's post. And I'm thinking here, Newcastle, they've really come into their own now. They started like Arsenal did in the first half. And I was genuinely worried. 2 minutes later, Zubimendi and Declan Rice, as they all link up beautifully on the edge of the Newcastle box. Little dink pass by Zubimendi over the top. That is what I love from the continental players. The weight of the pass over the top. Jurrien Timber from right back latches onto it with his head and just heads it wide of the post. And I'm thinking we cannot afford to keep wasting these chances. You know, Palace did the same against Liverpool at the weekend. That could have cost them. And I'm thinking you don't get this opportunity against Newcastle very often. Someone please take the chances. The chances, though, from an Arsenal perspective, did not come until late in the second half. Merino came on as a second half substitute, and it was him that, from a Declan Rice cost, he rose highest, and a deft little flick header in off the post, bottom corner. Nick Pope questioned by some, could he have done better? Could he have maybe come for the cross or not? Maybe got a punch on it. He's a big man, Nick Pope, but I don't think he's ever getting into that bottom corner from the Merino header. And Mikel Merino playing against his former club. Nobody has scored more goals for Arsenal in a calendar year than Mikel Merino has in 2025. He is a Swiss Army knife of a footballer. I don't like him in the midfield three with Rice and Zubimendi. I think it really limits Arsenal from a creativity point of view. But from set pieces, from crosses, he is so dangerous and so useful in an Arsenal shirt. He celebrated his goal. And this was a point here where I wondered, how would Arsenal react now? Because against Manchester City, they scored late and it was 5-5-0 from a formation perspective. And Eddie Howe, I think, changed the game for Newcastle when he took Voltemada off. He took others off as well, but he went more defensive. He tried to see the game out. Trippier came on as well. They made more defensive changes, and that enabled Arsenal reacted to that. Arsenal brought on Merino. Arsenal brought on Odegaard, amongst others. And Arteta reacted to the fact that Eddie Howe tried to close the game out around the 66th minute. I thought that was poor from the Newcastle manager. And it was one of those substitutions, Mikel Merino, that led to getting Arsenal back into the game. And I thought, great, 5 minutes to go. Can we have another go? Because it is now all Arsenal. But I would happily take a point at St James's Park. It's better than losing. It doesn't really claim any ground on Liverpool, but it keeps us in the title race. And then look what happens. Arsenal win a corner. Martin Odegaard, who, look, I have been so critical of for not being there in the big moments, delivers a beautiful corner in, and Gabriel rises highest to head Arsenal into the lead in the 96th minute. Cruel to Newcastle, who have had late goals against them, you know, in Gamoa for Liverpool this season as well, doing it. But Nick Pope here, question marks for me. I thought overall he had a brilliant afternoon, some great saves from the big man. But why come into traffic? Why try and come and get the ball? Just stay on your line. Gabriel's header is straight into the goal. He runs into traffic. Saliba's blocking him. It's not a free kick. Arsenal win the game, and mentality monsters is what I want to say. You know, the knives are out for Arsenal this season. The knives are out for Arteta. As an Arsenal fan, I've been very critical with the way that Arteta sets Arsenal up to play in the big games. But this, I pray to God, is a turning point with how Arsenal are going to take the game to the better teams in the Premier League. I credit Arsenal. I credit the players for going deep. But most of all, I credit Mikel Arteta for the performance yesterday from Arsenal. We must keep Eze in the 10. That may mean Odegaard is more of a bench role at times. That's okay. Arsenal have got other options there. Zubimendi and Rice look far better as a two in midfield. Far better from Arsenal yesterday at St James's Park. They've ended that 4 straight defeats. Now they must go on. They've got some better fixtures coming. They've been installed as Premier League favourites. I don't believe that at the moment. It's just a game of football, but far better from Mikel Arteta. Guys, if you haven't done so already, make sure you drop a like on this video. Get your thoughts down into the comments. I really love to read how football fans saw the game. Do you agree with how I saw it yesterday? Let me know in the comments. I will respond to all of those. And if you haven't done so already, it's free of charge to do. Make sure you're subscribing to the Footy Social Club. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one.